So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. K. Venkataramanan, our chief guest, his has been a very notable journey, a journey of accomplishments, a journey of achievements. Presently, he is a member of the board and President Operations, Larsen & Toubro Limited. He is in charge of its E&C division, which caters to engineering, procurement, construction, and project management in the sectors of oil and gas offshore installations, refineries and petrochemicals, chemical plant and systems, gas processing, and fertilizer sectors. He has spearheaded L&T's foray in the world of E&C, strengthened every aspect of EPC value chain, and transformed L&T to one of the respected names in the global EPC fraternity. He is the first Asian to become the chairman of the Board of Directors of Engineering and Construction Risk Institute, Inc., registered in District of Columbia, USA, for a 2-year term, which ended in May 2010. He is a fellow of Institute of Chemical Engineers, UK, and a member of Governing Council of Petrotech Society. He is also a fellow of the Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers. He is presently the chairman of the Capital Goods Committee of FICCI. Mr. Venkataramanan has been conferred with various prestigious national and international awards. And now it's my privilege to invite him to kindly address the gathering and share with us his wisdom and his knowledge and his experiences.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gregory Ballesteros, Mr. Raj Kaladi, Mr. Girish Kelkar, Mr. Tejas Sura, Mr. Vijay Prasad, a very distinguished members was here, and also my young and experienced and ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great pleasure to be here. I didn't expect such a large audience, and it's really gratifying to talk to you and share you some thoughts and insights on this discipline of project management, which really is relatively, in a very formal way, not that old discipline in India. And I must thank PMI and Gregory and other people who have tried to now bring this up to speed, because it is a very, very important discipline as India, as so very nicely put forward by chairman of PMI, has really, moving forward to build the temples of tomorrow's growth story. As I always jokingly tell people from Bechtel and Floor and others when they talk to us and when they see what we do, and when we talk to customers, especially abroad, who don't know so much about many of the good Indian companies, I said, well, the future of project management really, as a profession of people who will grow older and become very proficient, really lies in areas where really the projects are going to be built. And that will be the countries which are going to grow. And India is among those countries. And I always jokingly tell them, you've probably seen all the William Holdens and all the John Waynes, but the real Tom Cruise and the new young people who are going to like are going to come from these countries like India. So with these few words, let me straight away get on to the topic. The most important facet of any activity, and that includes building projects, is to create value. And as he mentioned about the Panama Canal experience, it's not really, if you do not appreciate at each step as a project manager, the importance of value creation across the entire value chain, and thereby work towards all those aspects that increase value as you complete a project over a period of time, I think you don't realize really the full impact of it. And therefore, in today's case of very large projects, or maybe medium size or even smaller projects, each one creates value, and the value is created not only by doing it on cost and time and quality, but in various other steps that you do as you go through the project in terms of being able to appreciate other aspects that come in from value engineering, from working capital management, from cash flow management, and therefore you got to be a reasonably financially insightful person to be able to really create the best value from good projects. Therefore, when you have project challenges and the challenges for leadership, like he mentioned about how they trained the people who are right through the project execution in Panama on being able to appreciate earned value and these concepts. In today's growth of any project manager in the competitive landscape that we all exist with international competition, and that's going to be even more for developing or countries like India and others, because since there's not that much activity elsewhere in the world, especially in the developed economies, most of them are going to come into these spaces and going to work and going to seek work in terms of projects. And therefore, it's going to be a very exciting period where one will have to really apply some of the aspects which we have been fortunate to learn from other people's experiences. Like he mentioned about risk management. I think till about 15 years ago, I don't think this discipline was even so well understood in a financial term from even the best of the American or the European or the Japanese companies who are in this space. And that is one area which has taken a lot of progress, and people like us who have entered large-scale projects only over the last 12, 13 years have an advantage that you could bring in this aspect right in the beginning in our execution. The other important challenges that we all have is that for the type of scale of this $1 trillion project execution, that opportunity that exists, there will be a lot of need for good alliances with more people who know better than us. The most important issue is going to be of human resources, because everybody thinks that India has got a lot of population and it's got a lot of people, but again, it is going to require a very high level of effort by most of the project management-oriented organizations and companies to be able to build the skill development in a very social responsibility manner for the skill of the craftsmen through training across India and across various skills, and also the ability to attract high-quality engineers to come and work in this difficult area of construction and project management, which is much more demanding on your work-life balance and your time orientation compared to the same bright person going into investment banking or into marketing of consumer goods or going into some other equally good or even better paying profession. The third and other important area is the ability to manage customers and the community. He mentioned about the Coca-Cola angle. Today when we work on large projects, as you saw what happened in some of the cases that you hear about industry going into villages and land acquisition and so on, the ability of a project manager to be very socially savvy and the leadership to be very concerned in these areas is also going to be a very important skill. So the soft skills are going to be as important for the project manager, especially when he operates in large scale in a very tightly populated economy like India, or a country like India is going to be very important. I'll just now take a little step back and try to take through some of the real building blocks that we have been building in organizations such as ours into institutionalizing this project excellence or project management as a discipline. Now again, this is a continuing process. It's not something that happens overnight, and it is still Indian companies, even the best of the Indian companies, have still a long way to grow to reach the levels which many international companies have reached abroad. But this is a journey, and I think as a profession of project management, I think this is a journey that all of us are taking by participating, by becoming members of such a fraternity, and then learning from each other and learning from other people's experience. In this, just for convenience, I'll take a hydrocarbon model, but it applies whether it's a power model or it's an infrastructure model. And if you take a hydrocarbon model, then when you want to integrate seamlessly across the chain, you obviously have to integrate between a licensor who has the technology or the process. Then you have to integrate it with an external PMC or a customer-side engineer. You have, on the extreme, the EPC contractor. And then you have the ability to be able to satisfy a customer. So I think in all projects, the stakeholders are many. Of course, what is very important, which is another vertical here, is when you operate the plant, you have the society around it. Like those villagers in the Coca-Cola plant, wherever you operate, if you're not able to do good to that location in whatever you do when you are there, it is not going to help you to complete the project very satisfactorily. So finally, all project management, when it comes to the hard skills, as distinct from the soft skills, comes down to basically the integrated execution between engineering, project execution, procurement, and construction. And today, in each of these areas, we have a very high ability to blend the IT enablement, which is something that was not there in olden days. But if you want to institutionalize it in a company or institutionalize it in your own group, you got to be able to create standard operating procedures, which becomes like a manual or a Bible, and which again cannot be static. They have to keep evolving, and you have to have revised versions of it as you go on to do bigger and more important projects. And in that, some of the important areas that come when you talk of value creation and in terms of doing projects in a competitive manner are the ground rules of what are value engineering, templatization, so that everybody doesn't have to discover the same thing over and over again, the ability to use the modern engineering tools which are now available, and most important, what we talked, the lady, as she announced, a tremendous amount of integrated planning, including to the micro planning, a look-ahead planning, and in addition to integrating in it safety and risk integrated. So I think the whole area of the interfaces is the most important area, because many times projects don't get completed because you're not able to interface with the external stakeholder, you're not able to interface even within your own setup, you're not able to interface with your subcontractor. And this becomes very important when you also construct as part of your project management scope, where the constructability analysis, the constructability control, the ability to have a hold on resource management, material management at site, and is also very key. And most important part of project management competitiveness, another very important part, is the ability that you have for global sourcing. Because today, even India is fully a globalized way. Most imports are zero or close to zero. So you could be able to also tap the value chain that you have in India, but you also have the value chain that's available from across the world. So this becomes the logistics and the sourcing, the ability to have that extra knowledge by both physical presence and through the various other norms becomes very key to have a total project management competency. But the most important part is how do you ingrain it in your organization in a very, I would say, institutionalized manner through templates, through systems, through processes, and also through standard operating procedures, and also have the other softer parts of team building, of teamwork, your rewards linked to performance, your rewards linked to teamwork, having a balanced scorecard between both teamwork and your own individual performance. And these are, I think, very important parts of the discipline if you want to do it on large projects. When you talk of an integrated project management system as you will have today in any decent sized project execution or in a good organization, you would have some sort of an ERP, which could be either homegrown or it could be customization of a SAP or Oracle or any other ERP that you have, which would do the transactions and hold your data. And then you would have on the other side for the design, you would have a combination of various design tools, whether it's PDS, PDMS, or various other sub-tools for the various design analysis. You would have a planning tool, which largely for large projects, Primavera is the standard. Then you would have a lot of your own homegrown tools, which will be on stores management, which will be on material tracking, which would be on procurement, which would be on e-procurement, which would be on site management. And you need connectors to be able to interface all this, and you need a lot of training and practice and following the system to make sure that the systems are followed. As I said, at least what we have found, and this is something that we keep doing it on a regular basis every couple of years to enhance it. We use also external consultants to come and help us to do it faster and with more focus, is the ability to integrate schedule control, cost control, quality control, and most important in project management, which among Indian companies, which is little given less important, is document control. Because the documents have a way with cash flow on invoicing and data, to get your foreign exchange variations or prove certain spares have been already supplied or not supplied, and you don't end up double supplies. But they also are very important part of knowledge management. And I think the other important part, which is the very key part, we work in overseas projects, a good amount of your money is held back for just documentation. And I think this is a very important part which, I mean, if there are some things that we as project managers in India have a long way to go compared to an international standard, I mean, it is not engineering. Probably it is much more on document control, on safety, and on these type of areas which we are, still growing. When we talk of, again, projects, as we say in our company, a project director of $1 billion project is bigger than or equal to a strategic business unit head of, who's handling maybe $200, $300 million per year sales or 400 million, because a project of $1 billion will probably be executed in 2.5 years. So that's the, if I had a 10 or 12% PBIT, or he is holding that much of value in that period. So in a way, one of the important things that are to change in the mind of management and in people is to recognize the project director or the project chief as equal to a business unit or a person who otherwise runs a static business. Because the potential here is as high and the loss potential is much higher. Because if you screw up a project of $1 billion, then apart from the fact that you won't make the profit, you would also make a substantial loss. So I think one of the important changes that happen in a project management company over a period of time, and which happens maybe elsewhere, but not happens so much when you have a bureaucratic structure which is not project management oriented, but it has grown from the conventional SBU orientation, is to recognize the type of scope of value creation or value destruction that a good project team or a project director has in that spell. So he's like a moving SBU. He has an SBU for that period till he picks on the next project. And therefore, I think this is a very important, and in this, therefore, his financial savviness in terms of cash flow management, in terms of the type of billing schedules he makes, the type of way he's able to convince customers to accept milestone payments and not have too much of retention at the end. I mean, this is a very important part, because this sometimes is a little less understood even by the customer, and it's not also understood by definitely many of the project managers. And therefore you end up with inherently difficult project to start with itself, And if there's no cash flow neutrality or comfort, the project suffers. Because finally, as we always tell customers, that that's the oxygen on which a project runs. If a project has a reasonable good terms of payment, that project will be executed better. Our chairman also talked about risks. Now this is a very, I think till the Oxley Act came up for various other reasons and corporate governance became an important element, the concept of risk management in a very profound manner and in a very technically and proper manner had not really taken root. And maybe even in India, from a project management angle, in a very formal way, it's a discipline that's maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, even in the best of companies. And this is very important because unless you have a system in your company whereby there's a formal risk management depending on value at SBU level, at maybe the general manager level, at the board level, at the chairman level, like we always say, each year is a year and each project is a project that you go and acquire. It's not that you make one product and you sell lakhs of it. And we've been fortunate that with the type of commitment that we have from our people in our company, right from the youngest to the oldest level, we have performed reasonably well in this tough environment of project management. We of course indebted also to a lot of people who help us all the time. I find one of them sitting here right in front of me from IIT Powai Management School. So we have used all the time this continuous learning mechanism. But having said that, I think it is an area which has got high risk and high gain. And it's also not for the faint-hearted, and therefore it's something that you need to prepare yourself very well. So, I mean, this has also got reflected in the way the stock has also keeps behaving. And today, when you handle projects, the analysts are more, carefully looking at you, because I think they understand it so well. In our younger days, we didn't have to handle too many analysts. Now we handle a lot of analysts. So any big activity that you partake today in any company, including project management, you got to be able to satisfy this very important stakeholder. So once again, I'm really, as my friends from the States would say, it's really an awesome group here. It's very large. And I'm so happy that PMI is having such a good, let's say, network. And there's obviously all the people from Pune and other regions have put in a lot of hard work to assemble such a crowd here. And for someone who has really, as I always tell people in the beach when I walk, I'm still a mazdoor, because we all have grown up from manufacturing and then to engineering and then to project management and then to management. It's really very, very heartwarming to see that so many people have come for a sort of seminar or a program on this. And I think it's a credit to PMI and to the people who have been part of developing this program. And I'm sure all of you would profit a lot from it. And I hope your companies will also gain a lot from this. And most important, our great country will need a lot and lot more of very professional project management people who can really do this magic of handling $1 trillion opening in front of us. And those $1 trillion will create many, many $1 trillion in terms of actual outputs, as he mentioned, the cold chains and so many movement. Almost 40%, 50% of what we produce on the land is destroyed by the time it actually comes to your table. I mean, L&T also was the biggest people for the dairy industry. So we used to do almost every dairy here was built by us. So we know what happens at that level and what happens. In between, you have people like Mr. Kurian who transform the dairy industry. But then you need similar things in the fruit industry and in so many other grain industry. So it's a great opportunity. I mean, I hope more and more young people, if they are here, are proud to remain in this profession. It is going to give them a lot of gain, although it has a lot of sweat. Thank you very much.